Hi there everyone, and welcome to another episode of FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name's Ben Warner and I'm joined again by Steve Kern on an exciting day technologically. We might finally see some interesting things coming from a company other than Apple for the first time.
I never thought I'd say I was excited about something from Windows, but I'm excited about something from Windows.
Oh, absolutely, as am I. It's been a long time coming, I think. So just don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. You'll get all our social media and other links there. You can watch old episodes or listen to our MP3s. You can subscribe there and get them all along there, and you can also post comments or tweet us or Facebook us. We'd love to hear from you, any questions or comments you might have, and we'll incorporate them into the show. So as we alluded to there, we're going to be talking about the new Windows 8 demo that was just put live in the past week, and it's very, very interesting because the thing that springs to mind with Windows is that Windows 95 brought in that new user interface with the start menu and all of that. And for all intents and purposes, that interface has not changed up until even now. It's still really there now. It's still the same thing, really.
I will point out that Apple had that interface for a number of years before Windows. Just to point that out.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. But now it seems like with Windows 8, they've finally stepped away from that interface in a fairly radical departure for a PC operating system, and it takes obviously a lot of clues from their work on Windows Phone. So,
yeah, look, it's amazing, isn't it? I think that this is a real step forward. I'm surprised, but I think it's almost as big as going from the mouse or when the mouse came in. This operating system's very different.
What's amazing is just it's really the emphasis on all the touchscreen elements to the interface. That they're obviously, they've been saying for quite some time that they want to port Windows to tablet devices, mobile devices, obviously to compete with Apple, which has really sort of usurped the market for quite some time, and it's really no surprise. In a simplistic way, what they've done is just taken the Windows Phone interface and sort of flipped it horizontally. And you've got, instead of like a start menu, you've got a start screen with the apps directly accessible. But you still have the capacity to use the traditional desktop if you want to.
Well, it's amazing. Look, it's functional across tablets, across phones. This may well save Nokia, this operating system. The fact that it's multi-platform and it's easy is huge. But what I'm seeing is very interesting, though, is just the way it integrates also with cloud computing and, like the whole Microsoft application range, especially Microsoft Office.
Yeah, because they've got things like Office 365, which is their version of Office in the cloud coming. It's still not available, but it's coming. And they're also going to incorporate, even though I guess Apple did this first with their App Store, but they're going to have their own Microsoft Store, which in a sense you can just buy and download apps, which makes a lot of sense. But I think it's just a good thing that someone at that level has come to the table and actually, even though the proof is in the pudding, they haven't delivered this thing yet.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We'll believe it when we actually see it. I'll say that much. But it's a real step forward, and you can see now. We've spoken in a previous episode of FiST Chat, about how good are the tablets. Well, I reckon now if you have a decent tablet with a decent bit of computing power and you run that Microsoft Windows 8, that'll really have functionality. Yeah, you will be able to edit on there.
Yeah, and one of the things why I haven't, for me personally, why I haven't gravitated towards, say, like the iPad, is that although I really love the iOS user interface on something as small as the iPhone or even like the iPod, because I think it's really good for that, I don't think it's a bit too simplistic for something the size of a tablet. The idea that you sort of have to go in and out of apps all the time, even though you can multitask, but it's sort of a bit finicky. Whereas I found even This Windows interface, if it comes off, looks like it will be able to break away from that a bit. And to an extent, Google's Android software for the tablet is really exciting as well. It was the first time I went in the other week to have a play with the Acer Iconia tablet that's running the Android Honeycomb operating system, and I just picked it up and I thought, oh yeah, I'd buy this. Because I reckon I could, because there's just functionality in the way it was designed, the software was designed, that made it more exciting to use.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting times, I think, for that. Certainly all the cross-platform accessibility. Do you think that Apple's been caught napping then? What are they going to release next week?
Well, that's the big question, and we'll obviously chat about that next week. But it could be possible, but you just never count Apple out really, because okay, Microsoft's come out with this announcement and looks clearly like they're on the right track with that, but you just don't know what they're going to announce. All I know is that so far, with the types of things they've been announcing, like with Lion and the iOS updates, there's nothing there that seems to sort of match what this Windows 8 demonstration was. As an example, I've heard that Lion is going to introduce, the ability to have an iPad, like the iOS style interface. And I saw that and I went, I'm never using that on a PC. There's no way I'm going to use that. It just looks awful and cumbersome, really. I mean, it's kind of like taking the dock and just spreading it out across the screen.
Well, I mean, yeah, we were saying this before. It was interesting that, with Apple, they spent all those years, probably up until the last 4 or 5, where, your operating system was a one-stop shop. In the last few years, they've developed that business model now where you're app-based, so you're reliant upon your apps and the Mac OS to work together. But it looks to me that if Windows 8 is everything it says it is, then you're going to get a one-stop shop. So it's almost like the roles have been completely reversed. You'll get Windows 8 now, you'll have everything with it. You'll have Microsoft Office, you'll have all the Microsoft apps that come standard with the Windows system. I mean, that's going to be fantastic. That's very functional.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's something that we've touched upon in the past, especially like with the iPad, is that it just at the moment doesn't have that level of functionality. And you can't really count, Apple out. Yeah, maybe we'll see, I guess, at the end of this week whether they've been caught napping or not, but you never really count them out, because they have been driving the agenda for mobile devices, I guess, since you could really say the iPod, really, way back then, but it really kick-started with the iPhone, as far as a multimedia device. So it's a really exciting sort of time. I just like the fact that someone else has come to the table with something that looks credible now. You don't want just one company providing everything. Otherwise, you end up in some sort of weird monopoly type thing.
Well, we've only been waiting 25 years for the people at Microsoft to come up with something exciting. So, for those of us that have been holding our breath, it's a big relief.
Oh, absolutely.
I won't complain about PCs and their operating systems ever again if this turns out to be as good as it says. Now, I've got a question for you though. Mm-hmm. Okay, if Windows 8 is everything that it promises to be, that will mean that you are going to have one of the biggest corporate battles ever. You have Microsoft versus Google versus Apple.
Oh, a three-way fight, the old...
Three-way fight, and I believe that only two...
Oh, really?
One will survive.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So they're going to sort of knock themselves out, do you think?
Well, they're either all going to have to become integratable.
Yeah.
And I think the battle will be, it was interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine today who does a lot of cloud computing through the Apple domain.
Yeah.
He's locked in there because he's set up all this syncing and everything within Apple operating systems. If he was to move to Google now or to Microsoft, he'd have to reset up all those things. I mean, maybe you can buy an app that does that for you. I don't know. But, so you'll be locked in and be a little bit like a phone plan, I'm thinking.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The operating system you're with.
Well, in that sense, it's sort of like instead of like buying, upgrades or things like that, you're buying into an ecosystem, which is kind of where I mean, Apple's kind of going in that direction, has been going in that direction a lot. There's, the whole cloud computing thing where you can access all of your apps and media on the cloud, and then have devices that can interact with that, so you don't have to store it locally. And then you've got, like, it looks like it would seem that Windows 8 is going down that route as well.
And that's with you. I think that you had mentioned before that it'll be interfaceable with Lion, Windows 8.
I'm not 100% sure, but it probably I'm pretty sure that all the sort of features where you can actually run both of them and all that sort of thing will be there. But one other thing that I thought was fascinating was that for those who have an Xbox 360 and the whole Kinect thing, there's talk that the Microsoft guys are going to incorporate that into Windows, and if they do, then they're going to get, like, if you've got a camera in your computer or your TV or your tablet, in essence, you're going to be able to just do hand gestures in midair without any sort of device attached to you. And I guess in that sense, you're gonna get those Minority Report screens, and you can fling things around with your hands.
Yeah, well, you are, and I can tell you that apparently those capacities have been built into Windows since Windows 7. They've just never had software to exploit those capacities. So with Windows 8, they're bringing that all out. So that's why I think this is an amazing step forward.
Just to your question before, I was just thinking that Google's, I think, the one that might get squeezed a bit.
Yeah.
Only because I think Apple's, like you said before, a hardware company, and they make all their money off of hardware. I've heard that software-wise, they're even considering, punching out operating system updates like Lion at very aggressive price points, so it doesn't really matter to them because they're selling the hardware. Microsoft, on the other hand, obviously makes an absolute truckload of money from Windows through corporate licenses, and through people that don't necessarily can afford an Apple or don't have an interest in buying Apple computers. They've got a lot of.
Who are they anyway? Sorry.
It's funny you say that, because I was surprised, but there are quite a few people that are actually not into Apple. Only, I think, because they're used to the Windows environment. But the funny thing is that I think Microsoft, with the amount of cash that they've got, they could potentially go into hardware as well. And they've been doing interesting things like hooking up with Nokia, buying Skype, doing all these other things. They've got, both Microsoft and Apple have that kind of cash to really sort of leverage themselves to buy things, whereas Google, from what I've really seen, they've got obviously search down to a pat, but what are they? Like I think you mentioned before, they're like an apparition on our screens. What are they in that in that sense? What are they going to bring to the party? They're creating operating systems for mobile devices, but they're not exactly 100% exciting, and their cloud services are, from what I've heard, they're usable, but they're not like setting the world on fire either. Whereas it seems like Microsoft and Apple are sort of sitting at that place where, that they could be vying to drive the innovation in tech. That's kind of where I'm seeing it. If anything, I would almost imagine Facebook jumping in there somewhere and giving Google a run for its money. Who knows? I mean, it's amazing how all these companies sort of come together with that sort of stuff.
Hey, look, it is, and I think it'll be bigger than Beta versus VHS myself.
Oh, absolutely. or who knows, maybe they'll be able to find their own little, sort of stake their own turf, and maybe they'll be able to figure out a way to, I don't know, share the whole thing together. Not that they want to share it, but somehow that's the environment that it's going to end up in.
We'll see, mate. We'll see. I think it's a very exciting time. I've not been this excited about software or operating systems in a long time. So this is something big.
Absolutely. All right, we might finish up this week's topic on that, but what we'll do is we'll actually continue this topic next week because, as you know, Steve, Apple's having its developer conference this week, and they're set to announce all of their, they're set to announce Lion, iOS 5, iCloud, and a whole bunch of other things. A rumoured new iPhone, possibly.
Wow.
But who knows? But it would be interesting to just visit this topic again next week and see what their offerings are and how it sits in with all of this sort of stuff.
Oh, absolutely, mate, absolutely. Cool. Tweet us, people, tweet us.
Absolutely. Make sure you jump online and get a hold of our links. So it's www.fistchat.com. Until next week, where we'll follow this up, have a good week and we'll catch you then.
See you, everyone.